It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a...
Hi guys, less than 50 shopping days to Christmas. You probably need to win a few quid. So the best thing you can do is sit back, watch and enjoy the 3 wise men offering their suggestions as to what might win the big races this weekend. Delighted to welcome bottom right, fresh from a fascinating interview with Charles Burns, Ronan Groome of the Irish Field. Bottom left, as we look at him, is a man complete with a haircut, which made me wonder whether he's bought shares in Flymo or whether he lost his bet, Thomas Coyle. And top left is Barry Doyle. No, and he's getting a fine this week for every mention of Energumen. I'm the problem at the top right, but you don't need to know about me anyway, because I put X for no publicity. We've got some cracking sport. There's Punchestown's Weekend Festival, but in Britain on Saturday, 2 really top meetings at Haydock and Ascot that are going to give us clues galore for the winter. And let's go straight to Haydock and start with one of the big puzzles, because Haydock, of course, is all about the Betfair Chase, which we'll talk about in a moment, because we're going to do this. And first of all, go to this big Premier Handicap hurdle, 125,000 quid at 225. Haydock, good to soft, and was getting softer as race day approached. But it hasn't stopped a field of 14 going to post for this. Headed by Run for Oscar for Charles Burns and Daniel King, who, of course, won the Cesarewitch. But the likes of Botox Haas and also Brinkley is another one that comes into the equation, along with Complete Unknown. Is it interesting that Harry Cobden goes to Haydock and doesn't go to Ascot? So there's plenty to get your teeth into. So let's start at the top and work downwards. Ronan Groome.
Yeah, it's a great betting race, Mike. It's obviously much better than the feature on the card. APlusTard is probably going to run out, so a lot of people will be looking to this race at Haydock as the one they're going to get stuck into. As you said, it did. Yeah, I talked to Charles last week, and he did mention obviously Run for Oscar was a huge win for him in the Cesarewitch. What he did say was he was a bit worried about the ground. He'd rather it be on the quicker side, good to soft or better, I think, and that would be a worry for him. And he's been usurped with the forecast rain, I guess, and he's been usurped in favoritism there with Mai Tai. I know Barry was talking about him on our earlier show this week. I hope he backed him because he's a 4-1 shot now. At the start of the week, I believe he was 8 or 9-1, 10-1 even in places. Like he's got a nice profile. I think people are thinking that he steps up and trip. He will. He's well handicapped. His best run last season came at Aintree. He was second to 3 Stripe Life there in a grade 1, and you're thinking now if he steps up to 3 miles off a mark of 142 on his first start in his second season over hurdles, that he could be well handicapped. I think the price is gone for me. I wouldn't be getting involved now, and I'd much rather take a chance, Mike, on one probably at a lot bigger price, 5 times the price. Indeed, with Gentleman Arms, Stuart Edmonds is runner. Like he's got a similar type of profile. He's got nice novice hurdle form from last season, and he also ran second in a grade 1 at Aintree as well. That was to Gelino Bello over the 3 miles. That's probably as good as a run as Mai Tai had against behind 3 Stripe Life. Now the reason his price is probably holding up is a bit disappointing. First time out over the 2.5 miles at Aintree, he was 7th there to Peking Rose. But I have that down as a prep run, and he was drifting in the market there before the race, which suggests that the trader probably thought that as well, or the vibes about him were that he'd come on for this run. And at 20-1, soft ground would be no problem to him. He's won on heavy ground on the flat. Just thought he was the way into the race each way. Probably get good terms on Saturday morning. So I'll go with Gentleman at Arms for Stuart Edmonds and Kieran Gettings.
Well, from a Gentleman at Arms to who do we want next? A Peking Rose or something? Barry.
Yeah, best bet of the weekend, Mike, for myself comes in the first race we're going to preview. Rona mentioned we did put this horse up at 8-1 on the Monday show. Just glad Charles has declared Run for Oscar to prop up the price. It's still 4-1 available. I think Mai Tai will go off favourite. He's a grade 1 horse in a handicap. Look back at his form from last season over, I suppose, shorter trips. He's only had 4 runs over hurdles. obviously second to Constitution Hill, was well beaten, but went off 6-4 favourite on the day. Obviously clearly well fancied. 4 lengths behind John Bonn in his next start, and then in Grade 1 company at Aintree was only beaten 4.5 lengths at Aintree by 3 Stripe Life, and he was doing his best work at the finish. This has been the plan for a long time. Ever since he's come back into training. I spoke to Johnny Burke. We'll be hearing from Johnny later on in the show. He rode work against the horse last week. He's fitting well. It's been the plan. I think this horse could end up running really competitive later on in the season in in over 3 miles in Grade 1 company. And if that's the case, he's coming in here off 142. For me, there could be lots of wiggle room in terms of that handicap mark. He'd handled the ground. You mentioned it's getting softer. For me, I think this horse is going to take the world of beating, and I could see him going off favourite. Rhoda mentioned, ground worries for Charles Burns' runner. It's an intriguing race. You like the pipes. You mentioned Brinkley already.
He likes the ground. That's the kid.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's obviously the pipes have a fantastic record in this particular race. What I would mention at a big price, and it's a massive price. Brian Hughes, intriguing, he's booked for Tronador. This horse, flat track, going left-handed. Obviously, the best piece of form he's shown in the last couple of seasons over hurdles was at Aintree. And that was 2 seasons ago when he won off a mark of 128. He's obviously off a higher mark here, 136. I thought it was a really good run on the flat on his penultimate start at Bellewstown. He could run a big race at a big price. He's right down the bottom of the weights as well. Number 11, Tronador. Intriguing runner. But for me, might I nap at a weekend in the first race we're going to look at?
Tommy Coyle.
I've muted him. There you go. Come in, Tom. I've muted you.
Good. I actually like Paul Nicholls' Complete Unknown. He came from Johnny Fogarty's. He was a bit of a surprise winner of a bumper in Ireland before he went to Nicholls for Johnny. I just think there's a little bit more room for improvement. If he can get his jumping right, I know he was second to John McConnell's horse in Perth the last time, but didn't jump that well. I know John's horse was disappointing in Robert's Chase in Cheltenham the last time, behind Gordon's horse Chemical Energy. It was a funny race, 3 Irish horses, and they were spread out all over Cheltenham. But even when he won a Grade 3 handicap before that, and still made silly little mistakes as well. So I think there's room for improvement, definitely in his jumping, and maybe a little bit more on this mark. And I think around 6 or 7 to 1, he's a good each way bet. Just one other horse, he's very consistent. I think he's only been once out of the money, with like soft ground as well, is Wakul of the Alexanders. He's only a 6-year-old, and since they got him from France, I think, as I said, just once out of the top 4. So look, he's a good, consistent, hardy horse, and he has rised up through the ranks, but he still might go another bit. So he might be a good each way bet there. I'm sure some firms are giving 4 and 5 places. So my 2 will be Complete Unknown and Wakul each way.
There you have the first of them. Let me just mention, of course, we want you to get involved with the 5 cast as per usual. The prize up for grabs, a €25 free bet courtesy of Boyle Sports. But you need to subscribe first and foremost, please, and then make your entries as we move on to race 2, the Betfair Chase, the Lancashire Chase, a field of 5. You can keep this brief, please, lads. The only concern about APlusTard surely is the ground, isn't it? Who wants first? Tommy.
Keep it very simple. Look, we'll keep it very simple. Henry's horses are in flying form, as we've seen last weekend. He had a couple of winners and a couple unlucky falling at the last, and that. It's pretty simple for me. He comes home on his own, and this. We all seen a picture of him. I think he was on the racing post last week, and the horse looked $1 million. Look, we'll keep it simple. I'll be putting him in every doubles and trebles that you're having this weekend. He should win.
So there's 1 for APlusTard. Ronan, 2 for APlusTard.
I probably won't play the race, but I guess the drift would kind of concern you this week. I wondered were they getting second thoughts about running him or something like that, or if it went really heavy, would Henry have a think about it on Saturday morning and think maybe this isn't the ideal starting point for him? I agree. I think if he shows up and they decide to run him, I think he'll win easily this race is littered with horses who just come back and win it all the time, like Bristol Demai, Q Card, Silvianaco Conti, Cotto Star. It's a real unique kind of test, 3 miles around Haydock, and obviously he walloped them last year. That was a really electric kind of performance. Look, give a quick mention to Bristol Demai. It's a 6th run in the race. I've never got him right in this race. I've taken him on when he's won and backed him when he's lost. Obviously, the heavy ground will be a big thing for him if it comes around like that. And I suppose you could look at maybe him in the match race with Protectorat. He's a nice progressive horse, and he liked the conditions as well. But Bristol Demai and Haydock is, I'd still give him a chance, even though he's 11. He still ran well there last season in a handicap chase off a big weight. It wouldn't surprise me if he beat Protectorat. APlusTard for me, yeah. And
a brief word from Mr. Doyle.
Well, he's £22 to find. Bristol Demai hasn't. Listen, anyone that's anyone. Sorry, I'm just hearing myself back there. I'm just going to mute Thomas because I think it's coming from you, Tom. Anyone that mop up some of that 4 to 6, congratulations, because this horse, for me, he's going to take an absolute world of beating. There's 4 to 7 still available out there. Obviously, he loves Haydock. The angle, I suppose, about the race is even though it's a small field, there's plenty of pace on here. You have Flora and you have Bristol Demai. You obviously have Eldorado Allen, who likes to go forward. Last year, there was plenty of pace in the race as well. APlusTard just picked them off. I can see this being a very easy win indeed. And Tom is right. Any multiples? I don't like getting involved in too many multiples myself, but he would be in there this weekend. Can't see how this gets turned over if it turns up in the same form.
Right, on to the 335. Last race on the Haydock card, so you wonder what the ground will be like by this stage. A pretty competitive renewal of this 3 mile chase. Again, lads, if you just keep your words to a minimum, that'd be brilliant. Barry, go in first here.
335 at Haydock. Is that what we're on to now, Mike?
Yes, you obviously, like in all those school days, you were never listening. You were more worried about what was going to be the next race.
Sorry, I'm getting a bit of feedback from my end. Goodbye Bobby was one that interested me as the ground gets softer. Houston, Texas obviously heads the market 4 to 1. Nicky Richards, he's obviously won his last 2 starts. The quote from Nicky Richards in his stable tour was, "This horse will stay 4 miles," and so he will. Beat Inish Free Lad, who turns up earlier on in the card. Be interesting to see how that form works out earlier in the day. This horse is very lightly raced. I think he's a worthy favourite, and either Chase was mentioned for the favourite here, Houston, Texas. He's probably going to have to win to get into that race. I think he's a strong favourite, but I just have, for the sake of the 5 cast, I'm going to go with Goodbye Bobby. He's at 40. He's had more experience over fences. Last year really caught the eye at Christmas time when winning at Wetherby. On soft ground over 3 miles. So he's proven over the distance. I think the track is going to suit him. And he's also had a prep run as well and finished 7th of 13 runners at Ascot on his most recent start on decent ground on that occasion. He's been dropped 2 pounds. He's come for a bit of support. I'm going to side with Goodbye Bobby for the Twiston Davis team, who might be now starting to get their string rolling.
Agree or disagree, Ronan?
I don't disagree. I'm sure Goodbye Bobby has a chance for sure. I was sweet enough on Lord Dominilo, I have to say. I think he's possibly back to a very workable mark. And the horse he was second to the last day at Bangor is a horse a lot of people are talking up now for Coral Gold Cup. That was Lamilos. That was a really big run from Lord Dominilo first time out. And his form around Haydock is pretty strong. He's got 3 wins in the second there. And as I said, he's back to a mark of 146. His last win came off 149. So he's there, and the soft ground, heavy ground would be no problem to him. I like him, I have to say. Yeah, I'm going to play him.
What are you going to play, Thomas? And I'm not talking about your record collection.
Yeah, I actually really fancy the Fontaine Calange, but the real worrying thing for me is Venetia Williams' form. I don't think she's had a winner in the last maybe 3 weeks. Would be damaging. His form of his last run is good. The horse he beat, Would You Be Well, won the other day in Bangor, but it's just the form of the yard really puts me off. So I actually then landed on Houston, Texas. He looks a good progressive chaser, and to me, I really like horses that win in Carlisle. Carlisle is a tough jumping track. It's one of the tougher tracks up the north, I would say, and for a horse like that to to win. I know he edged left, but he was pulling away in command at the last.
He's a proper stair.
Yeah,
This
and like it's a good them 4 or 5 fences up that hill is a good test of jumping for a horse. So I like him. Just one other horse. I know it's a long way down, but Easyland, if he's ever going to come back, it'll be this time after a break. I know, like, I remember Madness, we were talking when he was winning cross country race about a thing, but just after a break, I think he's very interesting this time. If he doesn't show anything this time, you may write him off, I think. Just after a summer's break or that, it'll be interesting to see, will there be a spark left in him.
Okay, that takes care of the Haydock card. We'll come back and get the 5 cast tips from the lads in a moment. But let's talk Ascot. And of course, all eyes are going to be on Constitution Hill, given the go-ahead, the ground goods are soft in places. But before we get to Constitution Hill, we got the 205 Chanel Farmer Chase. A lot is going to depend on where Hitman runs. If Hitman runs here against Long Press, we're in for a treat. Otherwise, we're in for what should be a procession. That's my statement. Anybody agree or disagree? Like, for instance, Barry Doyle?
Well, look, I wouldn't be getting... You're talking about short price favours this weekend. I'd sooner back APlusTard than get involved in Lahan Press at odds on this weekend. Just if you are thinking about creasing into to a short price favourites. Lahan Press, on paper, if you to look at the stats, the ground, the track, even going right-handed, the stats are all in his favour here, Lahan Press, on paper. But if you actually look at the way he races, he jumps out to his left, and he has done all right throughout last season. Tom has raised a very interesting point about Venetia Williams. It just wouldn't be getting involved on this horse in any sort of multiples this weekend. Okay, he might go and win. He could take quite a bit of stopping if he turns up the same horse in this. But like he's had Venetia Williams, the last 23 runners in the last 2 weeks, she hasn't had a winner. Stable form would be a concern. St. Calvados did show a sparkle on his most recent run last season, albeit there was only 4 runners in the contest at Sandown. If Hitman doesn't go, he's obviously going to be the nearest market rival. Lahan Press will be well in at the weights, but he's rated 161. He has been rated a lot higher than that, St. Calvados.
Okay, let's move. Let's bring in the other 2 lads because we need to move this on. Ronan,
I can tend to agree. Just to pick up on Barry's point there, St. Calvados was the way I wanted to play the race, and I was hoping that Pick Doherty was going to be the Nichols runner here because I'm always mad keen to take on Pick Doherty. I think he wins a load of Mickey Mouse races and gets hyped up for it, and I don't think he's that good. Hitman, I do respect. His run first time out was huge. He obviously conceded £17 to the subsequent Paddy Power winner in third there, Gal Law at Aintree. That was a huge run, and it's just the fact that Harry Cobden is a Haydock perhaps would suggest that he might run there. But this is obviously a much more expensive race, and Nichols will be punchy enough, I guess. It's a 70 grand race. He might look at Venetia's form and say, you know, it's not of all the trainers, like he'd be the one that would fancy that battle and take it on. So I don't really know where he's going to run. St. Calvados is the way I want to move it. If Hitman wasn't declared, I think I'd back St. Calvados for small stakes. I could just see him hunting around here. Like his run last season at Sandown was a really big run to win so well. He won by 16 lengths, the Oaksey Chase there. Like that's as good as he's ever been. His record fresh is really good. He's won really 4 times on the seasonal debut, and he's been third in a King George and 4th in a King George on the seasonal debut. The thing that will hold his price up is David Maxwell has bought him, and obviously he's going to ride him. I think that's often over-egged, and especially if you want to play him like in a match bet with Hitman or something like that. I think Maxwell will be capable of just hunting him around and maybe picking up the pieces. And I think he could pick up Lahan Press. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So that'd be the way I'd be looking to play the race. But obviously just wait to see what Hitman does.
Interestingly, how negative the vibes are from the wise men. Are you paid a member of the negative squad, TC?
I am, yeah. I've just noticed it's quite alarming. Like 23, 24 runners and not a winner in 2 weeks. So yeah, look, for me, if Hitman runs here, he'd be my bet in this as well. He's £1 wrong with Venetia's horse, but he's actually £5 right with St. Calvados on this. So it's swing. Everton's kind of looking in his favour. Plus, he's had that run under his belt. which is massive. So, and a good run as well. He was unlucky; he only went down by a head to Riders on the Storm, and as Ronan said, last week's winner in behind him, and him giving weight. So yeah, for me, if Hitman runs, he should nearly win this. Yeah.
Well, we've been talking a lot about last week's winner, which leads us nicely on to tell you in a second. We'll talk about the race that sees the return of the Arkle winner, namely Edwardstone, on the Ascot card. But first, 7 days ago, he went to war on GA Law, and he also rode a really nice bumper winner. And of course, a hugely popular young man from Ireland, now doing very well indeed in the UK. Johnny Burke is our special guest on the Champ.ie podcast. And here he is, being put through his paces by Barry Doyle.
Right, so delighted to be joined on the Champ.ie podcast once again by a good friend of the podcast, Johnny Burke. Johnny, things are flying.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Barry. I suppose last weekend was brilliant. It was just one of those special days. It was great.
Queen's Gamble. It's probably a good place to start, is it?
I'd say so, yeah. There wasn't a lot of pressure, but there was, like, obviously on the back of what she did in April, there was always the worry that was a bit of a fluke, but it clearly wasn't. She's very, very good. I've never ridden anything like her. She's very special. She does everything right. She relaxes, and then as the race progresses, she gets stronger and stronger, and then she shows a great turn of foot as well. So she's a very exciting mare to be a part of.
And 2 from 2, Johnny, at Cheltenham. She obviously handles the track. Is good ground, is that key to her as well?
No. And, like, to be honest, I know when you look at it, she's been 2 from 2 from Cheltenham, but she's now won round both tracks. So it was the new track in April, and it was the old track the other day. So, like, they're 2 very different tracks. So from that point of view, she's probably versatile. And she's quite leggy and long, so I don't see why she wouldn't handle softer ground. She's going to have to encounter it at some point, but she's just very good, and I'd say them very good ones handle most things, so but what she's doing at the moment, she's just doing all the right things,
And just back to Queen's Gamble, obviously she won in April. Were you expecting big things on the track prior to her debut?
Yes and no. Like, she was always nice and she always did everything well, but she's never in your wildest dreams would you imagine her to do what she did at April. We were hoping if she finished in the 4 that day to be a great run, but to do what she did, she was obviously a bit special, and like I said beforehand, we were just worried then that it was a bit of a fluke. Like, if she went and won a bumper somewhere else before April and then did that in April, we'd know for definite we had a right one. But it was just always in the back of our minds that it might have been a fluke, and second run they can do a couple of things wrong, but she's just the utmost professional, and she took everything in her stride the other day, and she was brilliant again. But she's very well bred, and she's owned by great people and trained by a brilliant man, so she's got every chance of being very, very good now.
Absolutely. And did I hear Oliver mentioning listed race in Huntington and then straight to the champion bumper?
I think so. Like, she's only 4, so there's no rush with her to jump hurdles. So the listed Henrietta Knight mare's bumper in Huntington looks perfect for her. And then I suppose if that goes well, 'tis on to Cheltenham in March. There's no rush to jump a hurdle yet, so she might become too valuable to jump a hurdle too. But at the moment, that's the plan. So hopefully she can come through Huntington again, and then we can dream about March.
Absolutely. And you know how to ride mares to victory around Cheltenham, Johnny Burke. Love Envoy last year. How is she?
Yeah, she's good. Funnily enough, I sat in her a month ago for my very first time. I never rode her at home all last season. And to ride her at home is quite underwhelming, actually. She doesn't give you half the feel at home as she does on the race course. So she only goes through the motions on the gallop, but we don't mind that. She's on the way back. She'll be back in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'd imagine. I think there's a race in Sandown. We're just waiting for real soft ground. We've had a difficult time this year in England, especially with ground. It's just been on the quicker side. So she does like it soft, and we just have to be patient. We're working back from Cheltenham in March, so when they step out of novice grade, there's limited options for probably mares of her level before Christmas. So we're just steady away. I think there's a race in Sandown, a track that she's won at. So I think you'll see her in the next 2 weeks, maybe.
Super. And obviously the two, just to slightly maybe compare the two, or can you compare them at home with Queen's Gamble, I should say. I was calling her Queen's Envoy. Queen's Gamble, would she show more at home, Johnny?
She would, but they'd be two very different types. Love Envoy's a real bit in the politest way, a bit of a plotter, like real strong, powerful mare, whereas Queen's Gamble seems to have a bit more class and speed about her. So I'm sure Queen's Gamble win handle soft ground, but Love Envoy's a real winter mare and a hardy mare, whereas Queen's Gamble has just got that probably a bit more class and speed about her. So they would be two very different types and two very different physical types as well. But if Queen's Gamble could follow in Love Envoy's shoes next year as a novice hurdler, that would be great.
Absolutely. Cannot wait to see both on the race course again, Johnny. And I suppose that's Cheltenham. And you mentioned, obviously, Oliver Sherwood. We're talking about Harry Fry, obviously, Love Envoy. Speaking about you, Johnny, like things have been going well. 25 winners did account for the season so far. Things are looking up.
It's been good. Probably I've had my quietest summer ever, Barry. Like it was a very steady summer, and it's just the way things have probably gone for me. All right, for a lot of trainers that don't probably have summer horses. So my summer was quite. I'm not sure where I am on numbers, winners wise, compared to last year, but I'm very happy with the quality. And like last weekend was brilliant, having Gala on the Paddy Power, and to win a big race at this time of year is massive, and then Queen's Gamble as well. So, and I've got a few horses to look forward to coming through in the next few weeks with Not So Sleepy in the fight in fifth, and then Love Envoy when she does appear. So I'm very lucky. I'm busy, but I'm in a very fortunate position, and it's going well at the moment anyway.
Wasn't forgetting Gala, by the way. What a ride, what a training performance as well, in fairness. The horse was off the track for 603 days before its penultimate run. That must have been some thrill on Saturday.
It was massive. Like I was lucky to get to spin him in the old Rowan Chase name tree, and that was a kind of a prep run, but also a building run towards his next step, because it's tough when you go into that company and have had such long time off. So he coped well. He struggled in the middle part, and when things started to step up, he struggled. But he finished out the race well, and I suppose it was a lovely run with the Paddy Power in mind. The only concern was that it was a bit close, but he coped well, bearing in mind the first 5 or 6 fences. I was thinking this lad isn't on song today, but as the race progressed, he got better and better, and then he finally found a rhythm in the second mile, and in the last half mile he came very, very good.
You sent him off 5-1 for the November Gold Cup. You must have fancied him.
Well, I suppose he had a very good profile as a novice. He was kind of a forgotten horse because he'd been off the track for so long, you know. But like as a novice, he had very good form. He won the Rising Stars in Wincanton, and he ran up against All Mankind and a few good horses in a Grade 1 novice as well. So he had good form, but he'd been off the track for so long, people had forgotten about him. But just an unbelievable training performance from Jamie and all his staff as well to get him back and nurse him back. And even after the all run, like to get him fresh and well 3 weeks later for a Paddy Power, and everything just worked out brilliantly, and it was great to be a part of it.
100%. And any plans for him next? He's only had 7 starts over fences, 4 wins.
That's all, yeah. And I suppose like his record is great, 4 from 7, but 7 runs and jumping into a Paddy Power is a different ball game, and maybe that's what cut him out in the early part. But I think they're going to take him quietly for now, and we won't probably see him till after Christmas, because having such long off, he's had two probably solid runs quickly and a very probably hard race to the end of Paddy Power. So they'll take him quietly, and we'll see him after Christmas, I'd imagine.
Super. Gin Coco. I mean, this horse was obviously fancied in the week. You lads must have fancied him as well. He was 13 lengths ahead of the third and might have just ran into one.
I'd say so. I was gutted to get beat, but on paper beforehand, the horse to beat was I like to move it, and I like to move. It had to be a grade 1 horse to carry that weight and win, and he probably is. So we took a chance. We could have ran in the novice hurdle because the horse was a novice up till I think on the Monday. So we took the punt and ran he ran a great race. Couldn't fault him. It'd be unsporting of me to say that the hurdles being out cost me, because it was the same for all of us. I think we bumped into a very tough horse and a very good horse. He's lost nothing in defeat, and he can bash away now in all them 2 mile good handicap hurdles all season, and I'd be confident that he should stumble across one.
Super. Looking ahead, I suppose, Johnny, to this weekend. Boot Hill obviously was off the track for quite some time himself. He's only a 7-year-old. 2 starts over fences, 1 last time. He's got up £8, and must be fancying your chances on Saturday on him.
Yeah, big time. Really looking forward to him. I was lucky to ride him in his bumper when he won in Kempton. It seems like many years ago now, but he's been a troublesome horse to train, and they're kind of doing their best to nurse him back with every run. But he's a very good horse on his day, and it was great to see him put that together the last day in Newton Abbott. The second horse has come out and won again since. We got £4 first, and then we got another 4 when that second horse won recently. But if I did give him a kick from the back of the last and he won by 5 or 6 lengths, we probably would have got £8 anyway. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I'd like to think he'd be able to handle the £8 rise, but then again, it's jumping into a different ball game on Saturday, and it's a very tough race with Edwardstone and a couple of decent horses in it. But we're getting the weight, and we'd like to think he'd be able to climb the ladder again. So very confident about him on Saturday.
Obviously, that's Ascot on Saturday. You do have a couple of confirmed rides on Friday. You go to Chepstow. Anything stick out?
Few bits and bobs. I got 2 nice rides for Kim Bailey. Both have the first one, Gravely Class, I think it's called, is 1 upon a pint, and the second one, Pix Lad, I think it's called. I forget the name now, but
that's the one.
The second one, he won a bumper up north. So, and coming from Kim's as well. They should be well fancied, and a right nice bumper horse for Tom Lacey. The known Ophelia Racing Syndicate, he goes nicely. So, looking forward to getting him started.
2 questions finally. Horse to follow for the year. Everyone's talking horses to follow at this time, Johnny, and you can't say Queen's Gamble or Love Envy.
There's a horse in Tom George's. He's called In Edit Star. He's a grey horse. He had a bit of form in France on the flat. He's been schooling nicely and doing the right things, so he should be out in the next 2 weeks. So looking forward to him. He'd probably be my horse to follow, yeah.
And finally, did want to ask you about one last horse. I'm not sure, have you sat on this horse at home, Johnny? Or obviously same connection as the Lamberts, you ride Boot Hill. But Might I for Harry Fry. Is he a horse that you see? How is he?
Yeah, I actually rode work with him last Saturday in Lamburn. He was there with me, and Boot Hill was there as well. So I saw him. He seems in good shape. He's fitting well. I know they're really looking forward to running him in Haydock on Saturday. It's a race they've targeted with him from the day he's come back in from his summer holidays. So he's obviously got some great form with John Bunn and that, and a few others. So he's been targeted for the race on Saturday. He looks great and he's in great form. So I'd rather be on the right side of him than the wrong side of him.
Could he shape up to be potentially a leading stayer this season if all goes to plan on Saturday?
I'd say he could. Like he does have the profile and the potential to step up into Grade 1 company and be a Grade 1 stayer. So as I say, he's got the right profile and the form in the book to progress and be a Grade 1 candidate at that level.
Johnny, absolute pleasure talking to you once again. Congratulations on a fantastic weekend, and by the looks of things, we could have some nice fancies potentially in the spring. Hopefully,
Barry. Anyway, sure, we'll keep working away hard and picking up as much as we can. But a pleasure anyway, and thank you.
Great, Johnny, a top bloke, and everybody was delighted with him, and also great for the trainers, Jamie Studden and Oliver Sherwood. What a really good weekend they had. Now, this Ascot race where we were talking about the 3:15, which is the last of our 5-cast races, and Ascot's gain is Cheltenham's loss, because, of course, Edwardstone was due to take on Nube Negra in the Schlur last Sunday. Grand Too Quick, out he came. Now he's got top weight with third time lucky in the field as well for this Jim Barry Wines Hurst Park Chase. 125,000 quid here. And Johnny Burke riding Boot Hill for Harry Fry. Let's go and talk to Mr. Ronan Groome about this one. It's a big ask, 12 stone. First time out against a few quite seasoned rivals, isn't it?
It is, and I haven't read what Alan King's plans are exactly. I'm sure the Tingle Creek is the ultimate aim for Edward Stone, and maybe this is a bit of a rushed effort after last week. He's going to get a soft ground, but as you said, I'd be willing to take him on, just giving that weight away first time out, 161. I liked him a lot last season. I think he's still an underrated horse after he won the Arkle. I wouldn't mind too much his defeat at Aintree, even though Alan King said he wasn't over the top or anything that day. I think he still ran well in defeat, and I think he could be a force in the division this season, but might just be vulnerable here first time out. The Venetia form does scare me, I have to say, but I do like Ferrero Bamboo, and he has run in recent weeks and run well. He was second to Time White here over the same course and distance recently. He has loads of really good, smart handicap chase form last season. He was third in the Grand Annual. He was third to Editor de G to Cheltenham in another run. I think he's possibly off of a nice mark. He'd soft ground, it'd be fine for him. And I thought he ran much better on a seasonal debut this year than he did last year, which, given the trainer form and given a direct comparison to his run last year, I think that bodes well for the rest of the season. So yeah, I'm wary of the Venetia form, but I'm happy to take a chance on Ferrero Bamboo. I think he's around the 8-1 mark here.
Tommy?
Yeah, I'd agree. Edward Stone is the class act. If he is on song, he'd be hardly even looking around 12 stone. I'm just going to talk about the Emmett Mullins horse. I think it's very interesting that he's bringing Michael O'Sullivan over. Ken Whelan is his agent, and I remember when Michael started, when he did come conditional, Ken was saying kind of 10-5, 10-6 he'd be claiming off. So it's interesting that he's going to try and take 5 off 10-2, which would be fairly low. Just on his run the last day, the horse that he beat, Grand Voyage, won the other day again. So the form is kind of there. Was it Emmett planning something, just tipping him around, winning a 3-runner race, getting a mark for something like this? It wouldn't surprise me, as the man is very, very clever at things like this. So I think with 9-11 on his back and a couple of runs under his belt, he beat Railway Hurricane, who we see dogged it in Cheltenham last week, I thought. And they said it on the TV, Keith Donoghue gave him some ride. He just did not want to go through with it. Like, you couldn't have given the horse a better ride. Just if he didn't want to do it for him. He beat him in Tipperary 2 runs ago. So I just think it's interesting. Nice lightweight, has experience now. So yeah, he could be interesting for a little each way.
A few brief words from you on this one, Barry.
Yeah, I think Boot Hill is a cracking bet here. One off 132 with Newton Abbott. Beat That's All Right Gino, who's since come out and franked the form. He's gone up a total of 8 pounds. It's a fair hike, but he's in off a low weight here. Will like the ground, and he would be my play. Boot Hill, could be more to come from him over fences, and of course that man Johnny Burke up top.
Right, well, those are the main races. Quick word about anything else. Particularly, I can't leave this without the Gospel According to St. Groome and Punchestown. Anything that's caught your eye for the weekend in glorious County Kildare? They were so warm and friendly, the Punchestown Pilgrims at Cheltenham last weekend.
Yeah. I mean, like, we're looking forward to the Morgiana hurdle, I guess. Willie has said he's going to run. Obviously, we don't have declarations here. Willie has said on Tuesday he's going to run all 6 of his horses.
Your phone hasn't gone for a ride, then?
No, he's not that stuck. I mean, what Willie says on Tuesday and what he thinks on Thursday is completely different. So we'll wait to see with declarations. But obviously, if they all get declared, it's an absolute cracker. You got Sir Gerhard, Stateman, Boban, all Cheltenham. Sir Gerhard is the one I'm interested in. I had a little dabble on him for the champion hurdle with the view that Willie was going to start him off here. So I'm interested to see what he There's good racing at Punchestown. I was in Barry O'Connell's yesterday for a launch of the Fairy Hills Press Festival. And he says he's going to run a horse called My Immortal. It runs in the Perth Thames qualifier at Punchestown on Sunday. Just said the ground was too lively for him the last day, and he's a course and distance winner back up to 3 miles. So keep an eye on My Immortal. He runs in the Perth Thames qualifier. I think it's the second last race on the Punchestown Sunday card.
Tommy?
Just on Saturday, I think Emmett Mullins' horse that won in Clonmel that Keith rode for the Joneses, Halibut. He could be an interesting horse going forward as well. So see when he goes into deeper waters on Saturday in a novice to see. So he could be interesting on Saturday, yeah.
Anything from you, Barry, on Punchestown?
Yeah, I can't wait to see the Devil's Coachman run again. Punchestown, the ground's soft at the moment, so I reckon he probably will take his chance. Second run this season over fences. One that did catch the eye for James Mangan, Spallan's Tower finished second to Imagine at Wexford. That runs again. Keen to look out for him. But just one I'll mention at Haydock, Mike, on Saturday in the area race, the 12:40. It's a stay and chase, 3 mile 4 furlong. Man of the Mountain, or Man of the People, I should say, for Fergal O'Brien. Saw that win last time at Chepstow on decent ground. I think it'll enjoy softer ground better. This one could be well handicapped still. Has gone up £8 up to 122, but could be well handicapped. It's only a 7-year-old and having just his 7th start.
Okay. In a moment, it'll be the 5 from each of you, please, and then the nap and the next best to finish. But before that, let's just remind you of the competition. There are the races that you need to be putting into your 5 cars. Subscribe, and then if you put your entries in, you could be winning a €25 free bet courtesy of Boyle Sports. And Barry, you've got the winner.
Last week's winner, Mike Vince, is congratulations to Lloyd Murphy. He followed the Golden Groom in. Of course, did have 2 winners with Hermes Allen and Banbridge, and Napton and beat him as well. So congratulations, Lloyd. You have won a Jumpers to Follow book from Paul Ferguson. Paul will send it out. Get in touch via the DMs underneath the comments, or you can also email us to champ.ie@gmail.com to claim the prize. So congratulations, Lloyd.
And so we move on then to the most important part of the week, where the lads nail their colours, trousers and everything else to the mast with a few tips. So let's go down to 5 first, and then we'll get them to cut it. So let's start then with this big hurdle race at Haydock, run for Oscar top weight, 225 Haydock. The winner is Tommy Coyle.
Complete unknown.
Ronan.
Gentleman at Arms.
Barry.
Might I 4-1 nap of the weekend.
On we go then to the Betfair Lancashire Chase itself. Barry.
APlusTard.
Thomas.
APlusTard.
Surprise me, Ronan.
APlusTard.
And the long distance chase, the staying chase at 3:35 that ends the card. I think it's a question of mudlarks to the right, anything else to the left here, isn't it? Thomas, our first innings here.
Houston, Texas.
Yeah, I don't know whether you've ever been. If you back it, you'd probably win enough to go. Ronan.
Lord the Main Need.
Barry.
Jumps well, travels well, would be bang there. Goodbye, Bobby.
And to Ascot, obviously the difficult one here, the 205. Let's ask you to say if Hitman runs, and then if Hitman doesn't run. So, Barry, if Hitman runs,
Hitman wins.
If Hitman doesn't run,
I'd probably stick in Lahan Press. Go Lahan Press.
Thomas, same 2 questions to you.
Yeah, I'd be the same as Barry. Hitman wins if he runs, and Lahan Press if he doesn't.
Heaven forbid. Thomas Coyle agrees with Barry Doyle.
Okay.
Must be the haircut. And Ronan, if Hitman runs,
I'm going to take a chance on St. Calvados, both situations.
Right, and then this very good 2 mile 1 furlong handicap chase at 3:15 to complete the 5. Barry.
Boot Hill, Johnny Burke.
Ronan.
Ferrero Bamboo.
Thomas?
I'll take a chance on So Scottish.
That's great, isn't it? That's what we love when three of them can't agree a thing, except he's over 2 miles, 1 furlong. Right, so down to the wire. Barry, Knapp, you've mentioned.
Might I?
Next best.
Man of the people.
Thomas, Knapp.
APlusTard.
Next best.
Horse on Saturday in Punchestown, a horse called Chosen Diamond of Eddie Cawley's.
Hello. Let's be keeping this one quiet.
Was 8th in Down Royal at the big festival meeting. Got hampered at the first. Got tired jumping the last. Is a stone better off with the winner, Gordon's Jungle Prowse. Keith Donoghue doing 11.3 down to Keith's minimum. I think the Ronan have brought him on, so he'd be a good each way bet.
And the last words, as usual, belong to that charming, eloquent. Oh no, sorry, it's Ronan, isn't it? Yeah, Ronan, your napping next best. Nap first of all.
I'm napping my old friend Real Steel. He's in at 12.55 at Punchestown on Sunday. Just a quick word. He when he left Ireland, when he was with Willie Muns, his last run for Willie, he was 6th in the Gold Cup, and he went to Paul Nicholls rated 166. He had 2 seasons there, did absolutely nothing, and has come back to Ireland rated 130. So he's 36 pounds lower since when he left. He ran a really big race for Eric McNamara at Galway. The last day he was second to a horse called Flash the Tuzan at 22-1. I think he's well handicapped again, and he's back over the course and distance that he won at the Punchestown Festival. He won a big handicap chase there. My next best, I'll go with Gentleman at Arms in the big handicap hurdle at Haydock.
And you, Mike?
There you have it, and I know everybody likes to be entertained, so here's 20 seconds of entertainment. The M. Snap is Brinkley each way in that 225 at Haydock. And in the Grade 2 Novice Chase at Punchestown, What Price the Shark? And Hallowed Star 1 and 2 at Galway likes to go right-handed. And, of course, Punchestown is right-handed. And at least that is a fact, whereas whether this lot know whether they're left-handed and right-hand do, we'll find out over the next 48 hours. But my thanks to Barry Doyle, to Thomas Coyle, to Ronan Groome, and to each and every single one of you who sat through the last 30-odd minutes. There's plenty of tips in there. Some of I'm sure are going to win. Just don't ask me which ones. We'll do it all again next week. Don't forget, get your 5 casts in, and we'll see you soon.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special pair, and it's a hands for the break. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by